So, this kind of blew up. I've been getting a lot of comments about the older sets I praise so highly and why modern train sets suck. So, let's talk about some of the points others have brought up.
These high-end Lionel products were noted for their superior quality, scale size, and operational reliability.
Quite a few people brought up that older sets' engines had atrocious reliability. I don't disagree with this. I have 3 Tyco/Mantua Sierra Railway 460s. The only one out of its box has always been a bad runner. Now, I bought this model used, and I've had it disassembled for over a decade, and I'm not going to open my new sealed one to see how good it runs. I also can't speak on Bachmann, Mantua, AHM, IHC models of the 80s and their reliability. I did have a Great Northern 282 from IHC, and it always ran. But unfortunately, I don't have the model anymore. I got rid of it several years ago, not because it didn't run, but because I bought a different 282. However, this unreliability can actually serve as a good thing, said the Tyco dealer. 1, you can learn how the models work by opening them up and attempting to fix them, which can actually be a pretty good skill later in life. 2, you don't really have to worry about them. You can crash them, repaint, attempt to fix them, as they aren't worth much being so cheap and running pretty terribly. And again, I do concede that a model that runs every time you play with it will keep you playing with it longer or be into the hobby longer when the model isn't constantly in the back shop.
Or the slightly smaller and less expensive Rail King products, the bottom line is terrific bang for the buck. Great looking model trains that run just as good as they look.
A few people brought up that my $71 to $78 train set is between $550 and $600 when you account for direct inflation. I did not use direct inflation for a reason. Buying power changes with time, hence why I used a brass model for comparison, as it gives a better representation of value for money comparison, kind of like the Consumer Price Index. And for those who don't know what that is, here's a brief definition. The Consumer Price Index is the instrument to measure inflation. It is used to estimate the average variation between 2 given years or periods in time by the prices of products consumed by households. It is a composite measurement of trends in the prices of products of consistent quality. I would recommend doing your own further research on buying power, as it's rather complicated to explain here, and in the description I'll leave a couple of links to better explain this stuff, and how it's a better way to compare prices than just direct inflation. I will also say a thank you to the people who informed me that $78 could be a week's pay for people in the 70s, and it gives me a bit better perspective on how value for money could also be changed in the fact that $300 today at least where I live, it's $15 an hour, so you're looking at roughly 20 hours worth of work, as opposed to this is 1 week, 40 hours worth of work. So again, thank you very much to those people who informed me about that. The last thing I want to talk about, which probably should have been in the main video, but I'm at least going to put it here, are the changing tides of the time and the different threats that model railroading faces today. Probably the biggest threat we have is the space age. A lot of people brought up that trains are not as common and as in the day-to-day life of people anymore, and that has an impact on the hobby. I don't particularly agree with this statement. While the first part of the statement is true, people still like trains. While we are in the 2020s and may not have a local railroad in every town or steam locomotives thundering over the plains and valleys, people still get interested in trains, even if they have not been the latest and most interesting thing since steam died in the 50s. And I kind of think Ringo said it best in his one interview.
because I thought it was all Star Wars and space madness. And, there's stories about these nice little trains. And in the end, she convinced me, and I did it, and it works very well in England. I hope it works as good here.
Another argument is that video games have taken over the world, and this does have some serious merit. Simulators in the last 4 to 5 years have really stepped up their game with both the quality and variety of models available. I mean, why pay $2,000 for a brass model of a Western Maryland H9280 when you can pay $25 for a virtual one, have unlimited playtime with it on your computer, or dedicate an entire room or basement for a model railroad when I could just have an entire route on a simulator and only need space for my PC? It is hard to make an argument that physical models are better than these old and new simulators. I mean, 3D train stuff made their Donner Pass route over a decade ago, probably getting close to 2, and they've given me better sounds for a Southern Pacific C8 or 9 than Digitrax or ESU. I'm not really sure how you combat this issue, other than lowering prices on your models or basically making every single model. I guess no, Rapido does do this. Thinking about this off script here, Rapido does actually do this. They do go and get sounds from the real engines. And I believe for their Alcos, they also said they used recordings, because I don't believe there's any Alco 244s left operational in the world. So I guess Rapido does do this, but the majority of the industry doesn't. And, well, I guess your best bet at that point is to give customers the best train set that could spark even a subtle interest in physical models. I think Alco Foamer said it best on my previous video. A problem today is that we no longer have toy-grade HO trains like those that Lifelike, Model Power, and Tyco used to produce. Granted, the mechanisms were often crap, but if you could upgrade those, I think the lack of detail would be acceptable for a lower price compared to what is being made today.